Hi, I'm YuJune Park,
And I'm Caspar Lam.
and we're both assistant professors of communication design at Parsons School of Design, and today we wanted to share with you reflections on the Chinese Type Archive. Caspar and I are both pretty passionate about Chinese typography, and about 5 years ago, we began collecting all the books that we could find on Chinese type. And one question that really came up again and again through this process was, how do we make these resources available to the widest possible audience? And this led in 2020 to the beta launch of the Chinese Type Archive, which is an ongoing collaborative open access index of Chinese typographic resources. And this is divided into 3 types of records. First, we have typefaces, then concepts around Chinese typography, and lastly, resources. Through an ongoing process of collecting, we wanted to explore the domain of Chinese typography. And we had 3 primary goals in mind. First is enabling access, then broadening context, and lastly, creating a starting point for critical making. Between 2017 and 2020, we developed a seed collection and applied for initial funding. Then we created the first prototype of the site and built community of type enthusiasts, and then had a beta launch. We began with 230 records, and now we have over 800 with an additional 300 queued for editorial review. We had, starting with a seed collection, we moved to collections building and then disseminating data. Taking a step back, we wanted to place the idea of collecting in the context of design, pedagogy, and practice. And we wanted to offer a few broad observations.
So the first observation that we wanted to talk about was how collecting data can be used as a method for understanding design. For us, the collected data allows us to focus in on gaps in our design knowledge. So for instance, if we were to take a look at the history of Chinese print technology, and also taking into stock the areas where there was a frenetic typographic activity, we can actually layer on information from our archive in terms of the number of entries to see where the gaps are in our knowledge and sort of to focus in on the areas where we need to do more collecting. As our data archive achieves critical mass, we're really excited about drawing upon techniques from the digital humanities to better understand type and design. And this leads to a larger question about what is the meaning of typography beyond the alphabet. When we look at many of the typographic techniques, we really see that they're predicated on notions of the alphabet, so letters and words composed of individual letters. But of course, Chinese is a character-based language, so one character could mean a word or a couple of characters could mean a word. And they really offer us new ways of thinking about type, both alphabetic and character-based notions of type. Of course, the guideposts in Western type are a little bit different than in Chinese, but for us, this is really exciting because it gives us an opportunity to holistically define type based on these extended configurations and linguistic traditions. The other thing too is that in doing this, there are many different points of view. And so as we were looking through our resources and the things that we have collected, we saw that there were outdated terminology, even in authoritative references. And also, of course, issues of nationalism and regionalism, sometimes instantiated in the printed material itself. And of course, the terminology surrounding all of this is always changing in real time. And so in creating the Chinese Type Archive, we were really mindful of these different points of views and wanted to provide synonyms and stable identifiers that could become fixed markers so that we can see how these things evolve over time. And so maybe the larger observation that we want to put forward is that the structure of the collections can be a way of capturing these changes in our collective understanding of design.
The fourth observation was on how providing contextual layers of understanding. There's historical context, we have criticism and interpretation, and we have significance. But when we unpack these further, we also have linguistic context and cross-cultural connections. And this understanding is really key in terms of understanding context and how we approach teaching, especially in a cross-cultural context.
And so the last point that we want to make is that the act of collecting for us is a method of building community. We've discovered that the resources on Chinese type are scattered across the world. And so we wanted to draw upon ideas of crowdsourcing to balance both the project goals and community knowledge. And this is kind of paraphrased and taken from Brabham's crowdsourcing book. But for us, it provided a really good model in terms of gathering together a community of type enthusiasts. What we've learned is that over time, as the collection and the community grows, there's a stepped correlation in terms of the active maintenance and building of these networks. And so for us, the sustainable collections building and community building really go hand in hand. We want to end this by saying that, of course, the project is still ongoing. There's still so much work to do in terms of the methodology and the collections building. But we believe that it offers a valuable way towards expanding the discourse and critical making in design and type. So we do encourage you to visit ChineseTypeArchive.com. We need all the help that we can get, and we're really looking forward to our discussion in February. So thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.